A story about sacrifice, hidden truths, and the power of a single act of kindness to reunite a broken family. The fluorescent lights of St. Mercy Hospital cast harsh shadows across Ethan's face as he counted crumpled bills. $17. After 12 hours selling lunchboxes in the scorching sun, he had $17. His mother needed $17,000. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back. Or, if you're new, welcome to a story that might break your heart before putting it back together. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button because you'll want to follow this journey to the very end. Ethan pressed his forehead against the ICU window. Sarah lay motionless, tubes snaking from her arms, machines beeping steadily. 3 days ago, she'd been laughing, singing while cooking. 3 days ago, a drunk driver shattered everything. You should go home, kid, Nurse Linda said gently. Visiting hours ended hours ago. Home. The word felt foreign. Home was their cramped apartment where his mother's absence screamed from every corner. Home was the kitchen where she'd taught him to make the lunchboxes he now sold. Home was the photographs on the wall, all except one. The one she kept locked away. The one with a man whose face Ethan had glimpsed only once before she'd caught him and made him promise never to look again. I can't leave her, Ethan whispered. Linda's expression softened. Your mother's a fighter, but you need to eat, sleep. When's the last time you had a real meal? Ethan couldn't remember. He'd been living on vending machine crackers and whatever kindness strangers offered. Outside, the autumn air bit at his skin. Ethan made his way to his spot, a park bench across from the hospital where he could keep watch. The plaza was nearly empty. A few homeless people had claimed their corners. Ethan had become one of them, he realized. One bad week, and he'd crossed that invisible line from struggling to desperate. The lunchbox in his hand had grown heavy. His stomach growled, a sharp reminder that he'd given his breakfast to a little girl whose mother couldn't afford cafeteria prices. Finally, he could eat. He was raising the first bite to his lips when he noticed the old man. The figure sat hunched on a distant bench, barely visible between street lamps. Something about his posture spoke of recent catastrophe rather than long-term hardship. The clothes, though dirty and rumpled, had the cut of quality. As Ethan watched, the old man pulled out dry bread, tearing it into small pieces, chewing mechanically as if eating was merely a chore. Ethan looked down at his warm, fragrant meal. He thought of his mother, of the lessons she'd drilled into him. We share what we have, Ethan. Always. Because we don't know when we might be the ones who need help. Before he could talk himself out of it, Ethan walked toward the old man. Excuse me, sir. I made too much. Would you like some? The man looked up, startled. In the lamplight, Ethan saw his weathered face, intelligent eyes holding profound sadness. You're trying to sell it. No, sir. I'm trying to give it to you. I saw you earlier, selling these outside the hospital. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Day's over, and I'm not hungry anyway. His stomach chose that moment to growl loudly, betraying the obvious lie. The old man's lips twitched. Sit, the man said, patting the bench. We'll share it. They ate in silence at first, passing the container back and forth. The old man took small, careful bites, savoring each mouthful. This is exceptional, he finally said. Did you make it yourself? My mom taught me. She's in the hospital. Car accident. I'm selling these to help pay for treatment. The old man went very still. I'm sorry. That's a heavy burden for someone so young. I'm 16. Old enough. No one's old enough for that kind of pain. The old man set down the lunchbox. Is she going to be okay? Ethan wanted to say yes. But the doctor's neutral expressions, the mounting bills, the nurse's pitying looks, it all pointed to a truth he wasn't ready to face. I don't know, he whispered. The next few days are critical. But the treatment costs so much, and we don't have insurance. And I'm trying, but it's never enough. He stopped, horrified to feel tears burning his eyes. A hand settled on his shoulder, warm, steady. What's your name, son? Ethan. Ethan. I'm Harrison. Mr. Harrison. He was quiet for a moment, studying Ethan's face intently. Tell me, do you believe in fate? The question caught Ethan off guard. I never really thought about it. I didn't either. Spent my life believing we make our own destiny. Harrison's gaze drifted to the hospital. Then my son had an accident. Been in a coma for 16 years. Makes you wonder if there's some grand design to our suffering, or if we're just victims of random cruelty. 16 years. Ethan tried to imagine keeping vigil that long. 3 days felt insurmountable. I'm so sorry, Ethan said. So am I. Harrison turned back to him, something shifting in his expression. Ethan, would you think me insane if I said I believe I was meant to meet you tonight? Before Ethan could answer, Harrison pulled out a photograph, creased from years of handling. This is my son, Daniel. Taken before the accident. Ethan took the photograph, angling it to catch the streetlight. A young man, laughing, with dark hair and strong features. There was something about his eyes, the shape of his jaw. The photograph slipped from Ethan's fingers. The face staring up at him was impossible. It was the same face from the locked photograph under his mother's bed. The photograph she'd forbidden him from looking at. The man she'd never talked about. Ethan. Harrison's voice seemed far away. Are you all right? But Ethan couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because he was staring at a ghost, at a man who'd existed only in his mother's secrets. A man who, according to Harrison, had been in a coma for 16 years. 16 years. Ethan was 16 years old. Where is he? Ethan heard himself ask. Your son. Where is he? Harrison retrieved the photograph, studying Ethan with new intensity. In the hospital. St. Mercy. I visit him every day. Why do you ask? St. Mercy. The same hospital where his mother lay fighting for her life. Somewhere behind those walls was the man from his mother's photograph. Ethan, Harrison said slowly, carefully, you said your mother's name is Sarah? Ethan hadn't said his mother's name. He was certain. Yet Harrison knew it with the confidence of someone who'd carried that name through long, dark years. How do you know that? Ethan demanded. How do you know my mother's name? Harrison stood abruptly, the photograph clutched in trembling hands. His eyes burned with something between hope and terror. Because 16 years ago, Harrison whispered, my son fell in love with a woman named Sarah. A woman I drove away. A woman I've been searching for ever since. The plaza spun. His mother. Harrison's son. 16 years. A coma. The pieces scattered before him like broken glass. What's your last name? Harrison asked, his voice hoarse. Ethan what? Cooper. Ethan Cooper. Cooper. Sarah Cooper. Harrison repeated it like an artifact he was authenticating. She took her maiden name back. The old man stared at Ethan, his gaze tracing features that must have echoed his son's. When he spoke again, his voice cracked with emotion. You're his son. My God, you're Daniel's son. And in that moment, as Harrison recognized the impossible truth, Ethan knew his entire life was about to change. He was looking at his grandfather, and somewhere in the hospital behind them, his father lay dreaming in an endless sleep, unaware that the son he'd never known existed was standing just floors away. The question was, what happened 16 years ago? What accident had stolen Daniel away? And why had his mother kept it all secret? What do you think happened 16 years ago? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you're hooked, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens when Ethan discovers the truth about his father. Cooper, Harrison repeated, the name heavy on his tongue. Sarah Cooper. She took her maiden name back after. He trailed off, sinking onto the bench as if his legs could no longer support him. Ethan's mind raced. Back from what? My mother never. We've always been Coopers. Because I made sure of it. Harrison's voice was bitter. Because I destroyed everything good in my son's life, and your mother wanted nothing to do with our family name. The raw pain in Harrison's words made Ethan flinch. He wanted to run, back to the hospital, to his mother's bedside, to shake her awake and demand answers. But his feet seemed rooted, held by the gravitational pull of a truth 16 years in the making. Tell me, Ethan said. It wasn't a request. Harrison looked up, and Ethan saw past the expensive clothes to something fundamental, a father's grief, carved so deep it had become part of his architecture. I built an empire, Harrison began. Harrison Industries. Started with nothing, worked my way up. Took 40 years, but I made myself into someone who mattered. He paused. Someone who forgot what actually matters. A siren wailed in the distance. Another ambulance rushing towards St. Mercy with another emergency. Ethan watched its lights flash across the hospital's facade. Daniel was my only child, Harrison continued. His mother died when he was 10. Cancer. After that, it was just us. I threw myself into work, told myself I was building something for him. Really, I was just running for grief. He pulled out the photograph again. He grew up in boardrooms and country clubs. I groomed him to take over the company, never asked if that's what he wanted. What did he want? Ethan asked quietly. To be happy, to paint, travel, meet real people living real lives. But I was too busy building my legacy to notice his was suffocating under mine. Ethan thought of his own mother, how she'd always encouraged him to follow his dreams. She'd given him the freedom Harrison had denied Daniel. When Daniel was 23, Harrison said, he told me he needed a break, wanted to take a year off before joining the company. I fought him, but he was stubborn. He disappeared for 3 months. I was furious, terrified. He met my mother in some small town upstate. Your mother was working at a cafe, putting herself through community college. Daniel stopped for coffee and never left. Harrison's voice softened. He called after a month, said he'd met someone, said she was different from all the society girls I try to match him with, said she saw him, not his last name or bank account. Ethan could picture it. His mother, young and bright, probably making people laugh. Daniel, tired of gilded cages, finding freedom in her authenticity. I told him to come home, Harrison said. Told him he was being naive, that some waitress was after his money. He hung up on me. The contempt when Harrison said some waitress made Ethan's hands curl into fists. I know, Harrison said, catching Ethan's expression. I was monstrous. Daniel came home 6 months later with your mother. Said they'd gotten married. He was so happy, and all I could see was my plans crumbling. You didn't approve. I said terrible things. Told Daniel he'd thrown his life away. Told your mother she'd trapped him, probably gotten pregnant on purpose. Harrison closed his eyes. She wasn't pregnant. Not then. But the look on her face when I said it. Ethan felt sick. His mother, young and in love, facing this man's cruelty. No wonder she'd run. Daniel defended her. We fought, really fought. He said he was done with me, with the company, with the Harrison name. Said he was leaving with Sarah, and I'd never see him again unless I learned what family meant. Harrison's composure finally broke. He stormed out. Your mother followed, begging him to calm down. Daniel got on his motorcycle, too angry to be careful. I watched from the window. Watch him speed away. Watch the car pull out from the side street. Some drunk driver who'd run the stop sign. Watch my son swerve, lose control, and crash. Harrison couldn't continue. Didn't need to. The drunk driver kept going, Harrison whispered. Hit and run. Never found him. But Daniel, severe head trauma. They induced a coma to reduce swelling. So they'd try to wake him once he stabilized. But he never did. 16 years, and he's still there. Tears streamed down Harrison's face. Ethan felt his own eyes burning. Your mother stayed 2 weeks, Harrison said. Never left his bedside, barely ate. I tried to apologize, but she wouldn't speak to me. Then one morning, she was gone. Left a note saying she couldn't watch him die slowly, couldn't bear the reminder that my hatred had put him there. It wasn't your fault, Ethan said automatically. The drunk driver. I drove him to that motorcycle in that state of mind, Harrison interrupted. My cruelty, my pride. That's what killed my son's future. They sat in heavy silence. Somewhere in that hospital, Ethan's father dreamed endless dreams. And somewhere else, his mother fought to survive, carrying secrets she protected for 16 years. I searched for her, Harrison said. Hired investigators. But Sarah disappeared completely. They suggested I let her go, let her grieve in peace. He looked at Ethan. I didn't know she was pregnant. If I'd known. She probably didn't know either when she left, Ethan said quietly. She found out later, after she'd cut all ties. Harrison nodded slowly. She protected you from me. From my money, my name, my toxicity. She gave me a life without a father. The words came out bitter. All those years wondering, and his father had been here, less than 2 hours away. I can't apologize for that, Harrison said. But I can, he stopped. When I saw you tonight, offering me your food, you looked so much like Daniel. I thought grief had broken my mind. But now you know you've been visiting my father every day while I grew up not knowing he existed. Yes. Harrison's voice was barely audible. And now I'm wondering what I'm supposed to do with this miracle. A miracle, but it felt more like a curse to Ethan, answering old questions while creating 1,000 new ones. You said you visit him every day, Ethan said slowly. At St. Mercy, room 412. Every day for 16 years. I sit with him, talk to him, read the newspaper. The doctors say he probably can't hear me, but I do it anyway. Room 412. 4 floors up from where his mother lay in ICU. His parents, separated by concrete and 16 years of secrets. Mr. Harrison, Ethan said, you said my mother's treatment is expensive. Harrison's expression shifted. I'll pay them. All of them. Whatever she needs. The best doctors, best care. I'll cover everything. Why? Because I owe your mother a debt I can never repay. Because you're my grandson, and that means something. Harrison pulled out his phone. But Ethan, if the test proves you're Daniel's son, everything changes. The company, the family, the fortune, it becomes complicated. I don't care about the fortune. I just want my parents to wake up. Noble. But the world runs on money and power. Harrison scrolled through messages. And the Harrison name carries both. He explained about Victoria Chun, the VP angling to take over. About the board members who thought Harrison's obsession with Daniel proved him unfit to run the company. About how everything could change tomorrow. I want you to meet your father, Harrison said. The doctors say familiar voices sometimes reach coma patients. You're his son. Maybe your voice will reach him where mine can't. It made terrible sense. And if it doesn't work, then at least Daniel will have heard his son's voice, even if he can't respond. Harrison handed Ethan a business card. Think about it tonight. Tomorrow, come find me at the hospital. Room 412. Ethan took the card. Physical proof this surreal conversation was real. I should get back, Ethan said, standing. My mother. Of course. Harrison stood too. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. This old man and teenage boy, connected by blood and tragedy. Ethan, whatever you decide, thank you. For the food. For your time. For existing. Even if I didn't deserve to know about it. Ethan nodded, unable to form words. He turned to leave, then stopped. Mr. Harrison? What was he like? My father. Harrison's face softened. He was kind. Like you. He painted beautiful landscapes. Said he wanted to capture light. The way it changed everything it touched. He laughed easily, made terrible jokes, couldn't cook to save his life. He smiled. He would have been a wonderful father. The words settled over Ethan like a blanket, warm and suffocating. A wonderful father, frozen in time. Good night, Mr. Harrison, Ethan said, and walked away before the tears could fall. He didn't return to the hospital immediately. Instead, he walked through the city, processing impossible revelations. By the time he circled back to St. Mercy, dawn was breaking. Ethan stood across the street, staring up at the building that held both his parents. Room 412, Harrison had said, 4 floors up from ICU. He pulled out Harrison's business card, studying it in the early light. Then he looked at the hospital, at all those windows hiding all those stories. Okay, Dad, he whispered to room 412, to the father who couldn't hear him. Let's see if we can wake you up. Family secrets, hidden truths, and a father sleeping through it all. What would you do in Ethan's position? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss. Ethan spent the morning in a fog, sitting beside his mother while his mind churned through revelations too large to contain. Sarah remained unchanged, stable, the nurses said, which felt more like purgatory than progress. He held her hand, tracing the calluses from years of hard work. I met him, Mom, Ethan whispered. I met Harrison, and I know about Dad. I know everything. Sarah's monitors beeped steadily, offering no guidance. just mechanical confirmation she was still here, still keeping her secrets even in unconsciousness. I don't know what to do, Ethan continued. Part of me wants to be angry you never told me. But I get it. Harrison was awful to you, and Dad got hurt because of it. He squeezed her hand. But Mom, he's here. Dad's here, in this same building. And Harrison wants to help us. His phone buzzed. Harrison, Daniel's in room 412. Come when you're ready. Before he could lose his nerve, Ethan kissed his mother's forehead and headed to the elevator. The fourth floor felt identical to ICU below, except for the room numbers and the particular configuration of suffering housed behind each door. Room 412 was at the end of the hall, around a corner that blocked it from the nurse's station. Private. Isolated. The door was partially open. Through the gap, Ethan saw paintings on the walls, real furniture. Harrison had made this space as much home as possible. Then he heard voices inside. Don't understand why you're still doing this. A woman's voice, sharp with frustration. 16 years, Wesley. 16 years of sitting here talking to someone who can't hear you. That's enough, Victoria. Harrison's voice, cold. No, it's not enough. Your obsession with Daniel cost you everything. Your company, your reputation. And for what? He's gone, Wesley. Get out. I'm trying to save you from yourself. The board wants you to step down. If you don't start acting like the CEO you used to be, then they can vote me out. I built Harrison Industries from nothing. If they want it, they can pry it from my cold, dead hands. A pause. Now, get out of my son's room. Footsteps approached. Ethan barely stepped back before a woman emerged. Late 40s, expensive suit, the kind of polished appearance that screamed executive power. She nearly collided with him. Who are you? She demanded. Visitors aren't allowed without family permission. He's with me, Victoria. Harrison appeared in the doorway. Ethan, come in. We've been expecting you. Victoria's gaze ping-ponged between them, calculating. I didn't know you had other visitors. There's a lot you don't know about my personal life, which is how I prefer it. Harrison gestured Ethan inside. If you'll excuse us, we have family matters to discuss. The word family landed like a bomb. Victoria's eyes widened, her mind clearly working through implications. But Harrison was already closing the door. Suddenly, Ethan was alone with Harrison in a room saturated with grief and stubborn hope. And there, in the bed by the window, was his father. Daniel Harrison lay perfectly still, chest rising and falling with mechanical regularity. 16 years had been kind in the way they're only kind to the sleeping. His face unlined, dark hair slightly grayed at the temples. He looked like he might wake any moment. Except for the tubes, the monitors, the absolute stillness. Ethan couldn't breathe. This was his father. His father, who'd never held him, never taught him to ride a bike, never attended a single birthday party. I know this is overwhelming, Harrison said quietly. Take your time. But the shock was giving way to fierce, unexpected anger. You did this, Ethan said, voice shaking. You put him here. Harrison flinched, but didn't deny it. Yes. My mother spent 16 years running from you, working herself to exhaustion, hiding who we were. The words spilled hot and accusatory. And he's been here the whole time because you couldn't accept that he loved someone you thought wasn't good enough. You're right. I destroyed my son's life because of my pride. I've spent every day since trying to atone, knowing I never can. Ethan wanted to rage at him, but looking at the old man, shoulders slumped, face haggard with guilt, his anger deflated into something more complicated. Does he really look like me? Ethan asked instead, moving closer. Or were you seeing what you wanted to see? Look for yourself. Ethan studied his father's face. The jaw, the nose, the eyebrows. It was more than features, something in the bone structure, the proportions, like looking at a preview of his own future. I have his hands, Ethan realized, holding his palm next to Daniel's. Same long fingers, same slight bend to the pinky. He was terrible at piano, but tried for years, Harrison said with a faint smile. Wanted to play at his own wedding someday. The smile faded. He never got that chance. Ethan pulled a chair close and sat. What do I say to him? Whatever feels right. I talk about business mostly. Sometimes I apologize. Sometimes I just sit in silence. Ethan reached out tentatively and touched his father's hand. The skin was warm, alive, but there was no response. Just flesh over bones, over a mind elsewhere. "Hey, Dad," Ethan said softly, the word foreign in his mouth. "I'm Ethan, your son. I know that's a shock, but Mom never told you because of all this." He gestured at the room. "She thought she was protecting me." "Protecting you?" The ventilator wheezed. The monitors beeped. Daniel slept on. "I'm 16 now," Ethan continued. "Almost 17. I look like you, apparently. Harrison recognized it last night. I cook like Mom, though. She taught me all her recipes." His voice strengthened. "Mom was in an accident, too. Car crash. Drunk driver, just like—" He trailed off, the parallel too painful. Harrison watched with hope and heartbreak in equal measure. "The thing is," Ethan said, "Mom needs you. I think she never stopped loving you. She kept your picture, just one hidden away, and she never dated anyone. Like part of her was still waiting for you." Was it his imagination, or did Daniel's fingers twitch? He stared at his father's hand, willing it to move again. "So here's the deal," Ethan said, squeezing Daniel's hand. "You need to wake up. I know that's not how comas work, but Dad, and it's so weird calling you that, we need you. Mom's in ICU 4 floors down, fighting to survive, and I'm up here fighting to bring you back. We should be fighting together, as a family." The room fell silent except for machines. Ethan waited for a Hollywood miracle, but Daniel remained stubbornly asleep. "The doctors say it's impossible," Harrison said quietly. "After 16 years, chances of recovery are essentially zero. But I keep paying for his care, keep talking to him. Because he's my son. I can't give up." Ethan understood that now. The vigil, the hope against hope. "Mr. Harrison," Ethan said, an idea crystallizing. "You said you'd pay for Mom's treatment. What if we moved her? To this floor, near here? What if we put them close together? Maybe somehow they'd sense it." Harrison stared at him, and hope kindled behind his eyes like a long-dormant fire suddenly fed oxygen. "That's—" Harrison pulled out his phone, already scrolling. "That's not a terrible idea. The room next door has been empty for weeks. I could arrange a transfer." He looked at Daniel, then at Ethan. "The doctors would say it's medically pointless, but we don't listen to doctors who've given up, do we?" "No," Ethan agreed. "We don't." Harrison made the call, his voice slipping into authoritative tones. Within minutes, it was done. "They'll move her this afternoon," Harrison announced. "Your mother will be in room 410 by evening." The speed was dizzying. Money, Ethan realized, could rearrange reality. Within hours, his parents would be separated by only a wall and 16 years of trauma. "Thank you," Ethan said, meaning it. "Don't thank me yet. You heard Victoria. The board wants me out. If they force me out, I lose control of the trust that pays for Daniel's care." "Would they really do that?" "They could try. I own 45%, but that's not enough for absolute control anymore. Victoria owns 15%. If she convinces other shareholders, I'm unfit." The door burst open. 2 security guards stood there, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Harrison," the first guard said apologetically, "we've had a complaint. Someone claims you brought an unauthorized visitor. We need to verify the young man's identity." Behind them, Victoria appeared. "Hospital policy is clear about minor visitors. They need documented parental consent, which this boy obviously doesn't have." "He's my grandson," Harrison said firmly. "He has every right to be here." Victoria's smile was razor-sharp. "Really? Because according to every record, Daniel had no children. Yet here you are, claiming this random teenager is family." She looked at Ethan with suspicion. "Interesting timing. You've been vulnerable, Wesley. Anyone could take advantage." The implication was clear. She thought Ethan was a con artist. "That's not—" Ethan started, but Harrison cut him off. "Get out. All of you." "Actually," Victoria said, pulling out her phone, "I've contacted the board. They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow to discuss your fitness to continue as CEO." She turned to the guards. "Remove the boy. If Mr. Harrison resists, note it in your report." The guards moved forward. Ethan stood, mind racing. Fighting would only make things worse, make Harrison look unstable. "It's okay," Ethan said quickly. "I'll leave. Mr. Harrison, I'll come back tomorrow." No. Harrison stepped between Ethan and the guards. This is my son's room. Ethan is my grandson, and I can prove it. A DNA test would take days to process, Victoria interrupted smoothly, by which time the board will have made their decision. Face it, Wesley, you finally lost it completely. She nodded to the guards. Escort him out. The guards reached for Ethan. Harrison looked ready to physically intervene, but Ethan shook his head. Don't. Please. I'll go. He looked at his father one last time. I'll come back. I promise. As they let him out, he heard Victoria's parting shot. You're finished, Wesley. By tomorrow, Harrison Industries will have new leadership, and your fantasy about teenage grandsons will be over. The elevator ride down felt like defeat. For floors up, his father slept. For floors down, his mother fought. And somewhere, vultures circled Harrison. The elevator doors opened. Ethan's phone buzzed. Room 410. 6 p.m. Come alone. H. Harrison had kept his promise. Despite Victoria's interference, he'd moved Sarah. Ethan's parents would be side by side by evening. Ethan looked up at the hospital's facade. Somewhere behind those windows, his father dreamed. His mother fought, and Harrison plotted to save them all. Okay, Ethan whispered. Round 2. He hadn't found his father after 16 years just to lose him again. Whatever it took, Ethan would keep his family together, even if he had to fight Victoria, Chun, and the entire board to do it. Things just got real. Victoria's making her move, and Ethan's caught in a corporate war. What do you think happens next? Drop your theories below and subscribe. You don't want to miss. The afternoon crawled by with agonizing slowness. Ethan paced the hospital plaza, checking his phone every few minutes, watching for trouble. Harrison hadn't texted since the brief message about room 410, and calls went straight to voicemail. At 5:47 p.m., Ethan couldn't wait anymore. He entered through the west entrance, furthest from security, and took the stairs. His heart hammered as he climbed, half expecting guards at any moment. The fourth-floor stairwell door opened onto a quiet corridor. A nurse stood outside room 410, reviewing a chart. As Ethan watched, Harrison emerged, speaking quietly with her. The nurse nodded and walked away. Ethan, Harrison called softly. Coast is clear. Come. Ethan hurried down the hallway. Are you sure this is safe? What if Victoria? Victoria is busy preparing for tomorrow's board meeting. She thinks she's already won. Harrison's smile was grim. Let her think that. Your mother's been moved successfully. Is she awake? No. I'm sorry, poor choice of words. But when they mentioned you, her heart rate increased slightly. I think she knows you're here. Room 410 mirrored Daniel's room. Same layout, same windows, but bare walls except for a small photograph Ethan had brought from home. Sarah lay in the bed, smaller somehow than an ICU. More vulnerable. The ventilator breathed for her, monitors tracking every heartbeat. Mom, Ethan whispered, moving to her bedside. It's me. They moved you. You're on the same floor as. He trailed off, unsure how to finish. Harrison stood in a doorway Ethan hadn't noticed, a connecting door between rooms 410 and 412, currently propped open. Through it, Daniel's room was visible, his sleeping form barely in view. The rooms are designed for families, Harrison explained. Parents with sick children, usually. I had them open the connecting door. Thought proximity might matter somehow. Ethan looked from his mother to the doorway, imagining the invisible thread connecting them. Two people who'd loved each other enough to defy expectations, now trapped in parallel comas, separated by feet, but an unbridgeable gulf of consciousness. Can I see him again? Of course. Stay as long as you want. The nursing staff knows your family now. After Harrison left to make calls, Ethan pulled his chair to a position where he could see both parents. It was surreal, having them both here, both unreachable. Okay, guys, Ethan said, voice stronger now. I know this is weird. Mom, you're probably freaking out knowing Dad's this close. And Dad, you have no idea Mom's even here. But you two loved each other once. Loved each other enough that I exist. He pulled out his phone, found a beach photo of his mother. This is her now, Dad. Older, but still beautiful. Still strong. She raised me alone, never complained. Never dated anyone else, either. How do you move on from someone who's not really gone? Ethan showed the photo to Daniel, then walked it to Sarah. And this is him, Mom. You're Daniel. Harrison's been taking care of him all these years, waiting for a miracle everyone says is impossible. A nurse appeared, Carol, who introduced herself warmly. Just checking vitals. Your mom's doing well. Stable. Will she wake up? Ethan asked. Carol's expression grew carefully neutral. Brain injuries are unpredictable. The swelling's gone down significantly, which is positive. Now, it's a matter of time. She finished her checks. Can I tell you something? Off the record? Ethan nodded eagerly. Mr. Harrison never gave up. 8 years I've been here, and every day he comes. Other families stop after a while. It's too hard. But not him. She glanced toward Daniel's room. I don't know if persistence can wake someone. Medically, it shouldn't matter. But I've seen stranger things. If love and stubbornness count for anything, that young man has the best chance. After Carol left, Ethan sat between rooms, feeling like a bridge between two worlds that needed to reconnect. He searched online for information about his father. The internet had plenty. Daniel Harrison, heir to Harrison Industries, critically injured in motorcycle accident. 16-year-old articles, archived tragedy. Photos of Daniel at galas, looking uncomfortable in tuxedos. But other photos, too. Daniel painting in a sunlit studio. Daniel on his motorcycle, grinning. Daniel with his arm around a young woman whose face was blurred, but whom Ethan recognized from her smile. His mother. Young, radiant, clearly in love. Ethan had never seen her look like that. So carefree, so full of joy. The mother he knew was strong but cautious, always carrying hidden sadness. He found a video clip, a news story about the accident. A reporter outside this very hospital. Daniel Harrison, 23, critically injured last night in a motorcycle accident. Police say Harrison was attempting to avoid a vehicle that ran a stop sign. The other driver fled the scene. Footage of the accident scene. Police lights, twisted metal, chaos preceding life-altering tragedy. Ethan's hands shook watching, imagining his father on that motorcycle, his mother watching in horror. I'm sorry, Ethan said to both parents. I'm so sorry this happened. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. Is this Ethan Cooper? He typed back, who is this? Nurse Linda from ICU. Off duty, but wanted to check in. How's your mom? She's stable. They moved her to a private room. Thank you for asking. That's wonderful. I knew Mr. Harrison would help. He's a good man, despite what some people say. Ethan hesitated, then typed. What do people say? That he's obsessed with his son. That he's thrown away everything because he can't let go. But between you and me, I think that's what love looks like when it refuses to give up. The words settled over Ethan like a blanket. Maybe that's all any of them could do. Refuse to give up, keep fighting when the fight seemed pointless. He was about to respond when the door burst open. Victoria Chin stood there, flanked by two larger, less sympathetic-looking guards. I knew it, Victoria said triumphantly. Wesley moved the woman here. She looked around, spotted the connecting door. Unbelievable. He's completely lost his mind. You need to leave, Ethan said, standing. This is a private room. Your mother is a stranger installed here through manipulation by a mentally unstable old man. Victoria pulled out her phone, taking photos. The board will love this. Evidence of Wesley's declining judgment. It's not a fantasy. I'm his grandson. Daniel is my father. We can prove it. DNA tests. Can you? Because I've done checking. Ethan Cooper. Your birth certificate lists no father. Your mother has no connection to the Harrison family in any official capacity. And you conveniently appear right when Wesley is most vulnerable. Victoria's smile was poisonous. It's a compelling con, but ends now. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're a grifter, and Wesley's too blind with grief to see it. Victoria nodded to the guards. Remove him. If he resists, call the police. No. Ethan backed toward his mother's bed. She needs this care. She'll die if. Then perhaps she shouldn't have gotten involved in whatever scheme you're running. Victoria's expression held no sympathy. Your mother will be transferred back to general ICU within the hour. If I see you near this floor again, I'll have you arrested. The guards advanced. Ethan looked wildly around, desperate. His eyes landed on the connecting door, on his father lying peacefully unaware. Dad, Ethan called desperately, knowing it was futile. Dad, please. Please wake up. Please help us. Nothing. No miracle, no intervention. Just silence and steady beeping and Victoria's cruel satisfaction. How touching, Victoria said. But theatrics won't. She stopped mid-sentence, gaze fixed past Ethan's shoulder. The room had gone very quiet. Ethan turned slowly. Through the connecting door, Daniel's monitors were visible. The heart rate display was climbing. 65, 68, 71. What's happening? A guard asked nervously. Ethan moved through the doorway, drawn by impossible hope. Daniel's eyelids were fluttering, subtle, barely perceptible, but definitely moving. His fingers twitched. The monitors beeped faster, registering increases in brain activity. Oh my God, Ethan whispered. He's waking up. Victoria rushed in, phone already out. This is coincidence. Random neural activity. But it wasn't random. Daniel's eyes were moving beneath closed lids now. Rapid movements suggesting consciousness returning. His lips parted, and a sound emerged, soft, barely audible, but unmistakably human. Era. The name hung in the air like a prayer answered after 16 years. Ethan grabbed Daniel's hand. Dad, I'm here. Your son. I'm Ethan, and Mom's here too. She's right next door. You have to wake up. Daniel's eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, confused, eyes waking from a very long sleep. They moved around the room, taking in monitors, equipment, strangers. Then they landed on Ethan, and something shifted. Recognition, confusion, wonder. Who? Daniel's voice was rough from disuse. Who are you? Tears streamed down Ethan's face. I'm Ethan. I'm your son. You've been in a coma for 16 years, and Mom's here, and... Sarah? Daniel tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't cooperate. Where's Sarah? Is she the accident? She's alive, Ethan said quickly. She's right here. Next room. But Dad, she's hurt. She was in a car accident 3 days ago. Alarm screamed. Daniel's heart rate spiked dangerously, breathing rapid and panicked. Nurses flooded in, pushing Ethan aside. Sir, you need to calm down, Carol was saying. Try to restrain Daniel gently. You've been in a coma for a very long time. Sarah, Daniel kept saying, voice getting stronger with desperation. I need to see Sarah. Where is she? He thrashed against tubes and wires, trying to pull himself out of bed with strength born of panic and 16 years of pent-up need. Sedate him, a doctor ordered, before he hurts himself. No, Ethan tried to push through medical staff. Don't sedate him. He just woke up, but the needle was already out, injection being administered. Daniel's struggles grew weaker, eyes finding Ethan one last time with desperate pleading. My son, he whispered. You're really my son? Yes, Ethan sobbed openly. Yes, and I need you to stay awake. Please, Dad. But the sedative was working. Daniel's eyes fluttered closed, body relaxing, consciousness slipping away as quickly as it had returned. No, Ethan whispered. No. The room slowly cleared as vitals stabilized. Ethan stood by the bed, his father's hand still in his. Victoria appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. That was unprecedented, she admitted quietly. 16 years, and he wakes up just as you show up. He heard me, Ethan said, voice hollow. He heard me call him Dad, and he woke up, and now they've put him back to sleep because he wanted to see Mom. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. The board meeting is tomorrow at 10. If what you're claiming is true, if you really are Daniel's son, then everything changes. But I need proof. Real, undeniable proof. DNA test, Ethan said immediately. Today. Now. Victoria nodded slowly. I'll arrange it. But if this is a con, I'm not lying. I'm just a kid who found his father after 16 years, and I'll be damned if I lose him again because you think I'm a scammer. Something like respect flickered across Victoria's face. Fair enough. I'll have a medical team here within the hour. But Ethan, if the DNA proves you're telling the truth, She glanced towards Sarah's room. Then this situation just got complicated. Because your mother and Daniel have a history. And Wesley's going to have to face what he destroyed. He already knows, Ethan said quietly. He's been trying to atone ever since. Maybe. Or maybe he's just been running from guilt. Either way, tomorrow's meeting will be interesting. She paused. For what it's worth, I hope you're telling the truth. Watching Daniel wake up, that was the most human thing I've seen in a long time. She left. Ethan was alone again between his sleeping parents. Daniel, freshly sedated, but showing consciousness for the first time in 16 years. Sarah, still trapped, unaware the man she'd loved was now feet away. You heard him, Mom, Ethan whispered, moving to her room. Your name was the first word he spoke. After 16 years, it was you he asked for. He pulled his chair to the doorway, positioning where he could watch both parents. His phone buzzed, Harrison calling. Ethan, what happened? He woke up, Ethan said, voice cracking. Dad woke up. For just a few minutes, but he was awake. He spoke. He asked for Mom. Long silence. When Harrison spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. He woke up. After all these years, they sedated him because he panicked trying to get to Mom. But he was conscious. Really conscious. And Victoria saw it. She's arranging a DNA test right now. Victoria is helping you? Seeing Dad wake up changed her mind, or at least made her realize this isn't a con. Ethan watched his father's sleeping face. The board meeting's tomorrow. If the DNA proves I'm Daniel's son, everything changes. Right? Everything changes, Harrison agreed. Oh, Ethan, you did it. You woke him up. Just by being there, you reached him where I couldn't. He asked for Mom first, Ethan said. Not you. Not me. Her. Good. Harrison said softly. That means what they had was real enough to survive 16 years. Real enough to pull him back. A pause. I'm coming back. I need to see him. After they hung up, Ethan sat in the quiet, processing the impossible day. His father had woken up, spoken, and somewhere in his mother's unconscious mind, did she know? Did she sense Daniel was close? The DNA test would take hours. The board meeting was tomorrow at 10. And somewhere between now and then, Ethan's future would be decided. But for now, he had something he'd never had before, proximity to both parents at once. It wasn't the family he'd dreamed of, both sleeping, one freshly sedated, the other still fighting. But it was a start. Hang on, Mom, Ethan whispered. Dad's coming back to us. So you need to come back too. We need to be a family. In the silence, Ethan could almost believe he heard her answer. Soon, Daniel woke up. After 16 years, his son's voice pulled him back. But the board meeting's tomorrow, and both parents are still sleeping. What happens next? Drop your predictions and subscribe. Harrison arrived within 20 minutes, looking like he'd aged a decade. His hands shook as he stood in Daniel's doorway, staring at his son with raw hope and fear. He really woke up, Harrison whispered, moving slowly to the bedside. After all this time, for about 5 minutes, Ethan confirmed. Long enough to ask for Mom. Long enough to ask who I was. Harrison reached out tentatively and touched Daniel's forehead, a gentle, paternal gesture speaking of years of one-sided caregiving. Did he recognize me? Ethan hesitated, not wanting to hurt him, but unable to lie. He was confused, disoriented. I don't think he processed anything except hearing Mom's name and learning he had a son. Harrison nodded, accepting this with practiced resignation. Of course, the last thing he remembers is our fight. Me calling Sarah terrible things. Him leaving angry. He sat heavily. I put him in this bed. When he wakes up fully, that's the first thing he'll remember. Maybe, Ethan said, or maybe he'll remember that you never left. That you've been here every day for 16 years. 16 years he'll never get back. They fell silent, watching Daniel's chest rise and fall. Outside, city lights transformed hospital windows into a checkerboard of illuminated squares. Each represented a story, someone fighting, recovering, losing. Tonight, the Harrison family balanced between all three. The DNA team is coming at 8, Harrison said finally. Victoria arranged expedited processing. Results by 9 tomorrow morning, an hour before the board meeting. He looked at Ethan. Are you ready for what comes after? If the test proves you're Daniel's son, everything changes. The company, the family, the fortune, it all becomes complicated. I don't care about the fortune. I just want my parents to wake up. Noble. But the world runs on money and power, Ethan. And the Harrison name carries both. Harrison scrolled through his phone with a frown. Victoria's already making moves. She's contacted board members, spinning this as either proof of my instability or evidence I've been hiding a secret grandson. Either narrative damages me. What do they think? Mixed reactions. Some are intrigued. A long-lost grandson is good PR. Others are skeptical. And a few suggest that even if you were Daniel's son, my years of obsession prove I'm unfit regardless. Harrison pocketed his phone. The truth is, I may lose the company tomorrow no matter what. The question is whether I go out as a tragic figure who lost his mind, or as a vindicated father whose hope was rewarded. Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me in the cafeteria. 10 minutes. Come alone. Victoria. Ethan showed the message to Harrison, who frowned. What does she want now? Only one way to find out. Ethan. Harrison caught his arm. Victoria Chun is brilliant and ruthless. She didn't get to VP by being sentimental. Whatever she offers, whatever she threatens, she's playing her own game. Trust her at your own risk. The cafeteria was nearly empty, just exhausted residents nursing coffee and a janitor mopping. Victoria sat in a corner booth, tablet in front of her, and 2 coffees on the table. She gestured to the seat across. You came alone, she observed. Good. That shows intelligence. Ethan sat warily, leaving the coffee untouched. What do you want? To give you a choice. Victoria turned her tablet around, showing a document dense with legal language. This is a contract. If you sign it, I'll drop my opposition to your connection with the Harrison family. I'll support your claim at tomorrow's board meeting. I'll even help Wesley maintain control. In exchange for what? Victoria's smile was predatory. Your mother's medical expenses. All of them, covered in full. Not by Wesley's personal funds, but through a trust I'll establish. Separate from the company, protected from any complications. She'll have the best care money can buy, for as long as she needs it. It sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? Smart boy. Victoria leaned back. The catch is you agree to stay out of Harrison Industries' business. No claims on the company, no inheritance demands, no attempts to leverage your relationship for financial gain. You get your mother's care covered and a monthly stipend, generous, enough to live comfortably, but you give up any rights to the Harrison fortune beyond that. Ethan's mind raced, trying to see the trap. Why would you offer this? Simplicity, control, certainty. Victoria ticked off reasons. If you're Daniel's son, you're technically an heir. That complicates succession planning, gives Wesley leverage, creates legal tangles. But if you voluntarily waive those rights, everything stays clean. The company moves forward without a surprise, heir causing chaos. You want me to give up my birthright before I even know what it is. I want you to choose what matters most. Victoria's expression softened slightly. Look, I'm not a monster. I saw Daniel wake up today. I saw him ask for your mother. Saw the panic when he couldn't reach her. That was real. But Ethan, you need to understand, Harrison Industries is worth billions. The fortune you'd be entitled to as Daniel's son could set you up for life. But it comes with a price. Publicity, scrutiny, family politics, corporate warfare. People trying to use you, manipulate you. She pushed the contract closer. This offer gives you freedom. Your mother gets care, you get financial security, and you get to walk away from all the ugliness that comes with the Harrison name. You could be a normal teenager, go to college, build your own life. Isn't that better than being dragged into a corporate dynasty you never asked for? Ethan stared at the contract. Everything Victoria said made sense on the surface, and that's what scared him most. She was offering an escape hatch, a way to secure what he needed while avoiding complications he couldn't understand. But something felt wrong, like signing away his connection to his father before they'd even had a real conversation, like putting a price on a relationship that hadn't yet had a chance to exist. I need to think about it, Ethan said carefully. You have until 9 tomorrow morning. After that, The DNA results come in, the board meeting starts, and everything gets exponentially more complicated. Victoria pulled the tablet back. And Ethan? Don't make the mistake of thinking Wesley has your best interests at heart. He spent 16 years clinging to Daniel's ghost. Now you represent his redemption. Proof he was right to hope. He'll use that connection to maintain control, whether it's good for you or not. He's not using me. He's trying to help. He's trying to save himself, Victoria interrupted. And he'll convince himself it's the same as helping you. But ask yourself, if Daniel had never been in that accident, if he'd left with your mother as planned, would Wesley Harrison have ever tried to find you? Would he have apologized, made amends, welcomed you? Or would he have let you disappear? The questions hit harder than Ethan wanted to admit. He thought of Harrison's bitterness in the plaza, the vitriol he directed at Sarah, the pride that had driven his son away. Would that man have ever accepted Ethan if circumstances hadn't forced his hand? Think about it, Victoria said, standing. But think carefully, because tomorrow, everything changes for better or worse. After she left, Ethan sat alone, staring at untouched coffee. The contract's terms echoed in his head. Financial security, freedom, a normal life. All he had to do was sign away his claim to a family he'd just discovered. His phone buzzed. Harrison, Daniel's awake again. Come quickly. Ethan ran. The fourth floor was chaos. Medical staff flooded Daniel's room, Dr. Martinez calling orders while nurses adjusted monitors. Through the crowd, Ethan could see his father sitting up, eyes wide and alert, tracking movement with sharp awareness. Need you to calm down, Mr. Harrison, Dr. Martinez was saying. Your body has been immobile for 16 years. Moving too quickly could cause serious injury. I don't care. Daniel's voice was stronger, clearer. Where's Sarah? You said she's here. I need to see her. Now. Harrison stood in the corner, tears streaming, apparently unable to speak. When he saw Ethan, he gestured urgently. Ethan pushed through staff. Dad, you need to listen. Mom's okay. She's safe, but you have to. Daniel's eyes locked onto him with laser focus. You said you're my son. I am. I'm Ethan, your son. But Dad, you've been in a coma for 16 years. Your body needs time. 16 years. Daniel's face went pale. No, that's not possible. The accident it was yesterday. Sarah was crying. I was trying to get back to her. His breathing accelerated. 16 years? How can it be 16 years? Dr. Martinez stepped in, voice firm but compassionate. Mr. Harrison, I know this is disorienting. Time distortion is common, but I need you to focus on breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Daniel complied, chest heaving. As his breathing slowed, his eyes found Ethan again. My son. You're really my son? Yes. But 16 years. Daniel's gaze traveled over Ethan's face, his teenage build, visible proof of time past. Oh God, Sarah was pregnant. When she left the hospital, she was pregnant, and I never. His voice cracked. I missed everything. Your whole life. Because I was too stupid and angry to avoid that car. It wasn't your fault, Ethan said quickly. The drunk driver. I should have been more careful. Should have stayed calm. Daniel tried to move his legs, but they remained stubbornly still. Why can't I feel my legs? Muscle atrophy, Dr. Martinez explained. Your muscles haven't been used in 16 years. With therapy, you should regain most functionality, but it will take weeks, possibly months. Daniel absorbed this, expression shifting to grim determination. How long until I can walk? That depends on many factors. How long until I can get to Sarah's room? Because I'm not waiting weeks. I've already lost 16 years. I'm not losing another day. Dr. Martinez exchanged glances with nurses. Mr. Harrison, attempting to move prematurely could result in falls, fractures. Give me a wheelchair, Daniel said flatly. I'll crawl if I have to, but I'm seeing Sarah. Tonight. Now. Dr. Martinez sighed, recognizing when medical advice would be ignored. Fine, but I'm accompanying you, and if you show any signs of distress, you're coming right back. They maneuvered Daniel into a wheelchair, complicated, involving multiple staff and a lot of wincing as atrophied muscles protested. Through it all, he kept his eyes on the connecting door, like a man dying of thirst staring at water. Harrison finally found his voice. "Daniel, son, I don't know what to say, except I'm sorry. So profoundly sorry." Later, Daniel cut him off, not unkindly, but firmly. "We'll talk later. Right now, I need to see Sarah." They wheeled him through the connecting door. Sarah lay exactly as she had, unchanged. Daniel's face crumpled when he saw her, 16 years of longing condensing into one devastating moment. "Sarah," he whispered, reaching out with shaking hands to touch her face. "Oh God, Sarah, what happened?" "Car accident," Ethan explained quietly. 3 days ago, drunk driver ran a red light. Just like me." Daniel's hands trembled as they traced Sarah's features. Older now, marked by time, but still recognizably the woman he'd loved. History repeating, like cosmic punishment. He stopped, attention snapping to Ethan. "You said 3 days ago. Where were you? Were you in the car?" "No, I was home. She was coming back from work." "Work? What does she do? Where have you been living?" Daniel's questions tumbled over each other. "Tell me everything. Tell me about your life, Sarah's life, everything I missed." So Ethan told him about the small apartment, never knowing his father's name, about Sarah working double shifts, always tired but always present, about the hidden photograph, about selling lunchboxes to pay medical bills, about meeting Harrison, the impossible recognition, the truth unraveling in one night. Daniel listened with fierce intensity, trying to absorb 16 years in minutes. When Ethan finished, his father was crying silently. "She protected you from me," Daniel said. "From my family, my father's money, all the toxicity. She gave you a normal life. She gave me a life without a father," Ethan countered, old hurts surfacing. "Every birthday, every school event, I wondered, who was he? Why didn't he want me? I didn't know." Daniel's voice broke. "I swear, Ethan, if I'd known, nothing would have kept me away. I would have found you. I would have been there. I believe you." They sat in heavy silence, 16 lost years pressing down. Harrison stood in the corner, witnessing the reunion he'd made possible, wearing guilt like a shroud. "Can she hear me?" Daniel asked finally, gaze returning to Sarah. "We don't know," Dr. Martinez admitted. "Some studies suggest coma patients can hear familiar voices. Others show no effect." "Then I'll try." Daniel leaned forward, bringing his face close to Sarah's. "Sarah, baby, it's me. It's Daniel. I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to try. I need you to come back because our son is here, and he's amazing, and we've already lost too much time. We deserve a chance, Sarah. All three of us deserve a chance to be a family." Sarah's monitors continued their steady rhythm. No change, but Daniel kept talking, voice low and urgent, telling her about his coma dreams, fragmented narratives where she was always just out of reach. About the last thing he remembered, her face, her tears. About waking up and learning 16 years had passed. "I love you," Daniel said finally. "I never stopped. Through 16 years of darkness, you were the light I was trying to reach. And I'm back now. I'm not letting you go again. So you need to wake up. Please." Ethan watched his father pour his heart out, watched Harrison witness the depth of love he'd tried to destroy, and felt something shift in his understanding of family. It wasn't just about blood or time. It was about this, refusing to give up, loving when they couldn't love back, fighting for connection against impossible odds. Victoria's contract suddenly felt like what it was, an attempt to reduce all of this to transactions. Money for rights, security for silence, as if love and family could be negotiated like business deals. His phone buzzed. "Victoria, have you decided?" He looked at his father, slumped in his wheelchair, fighting exhaustion to stay by Sarah's side. Looked at his mother, still trapped but surrounded now by love. Looked at the connecting door, at paintings Harrison had bought to keep his son's dreams alive. This was his family. Messy, broken, 16 years too late, and still fighting. But it was his, and no contract was worth signing away his right to be part of it. He texted back, "I'm not signing. We do this together, as a family, or not at all." Victoria's response came immediately. "Your choice. Don't say I didn't warn you." Tomorrow's going to be brutal. Ethan pocketed his phone and settled deeper into his chair. Let tomorrow be brutal. Tonight, for the first time, he was sitting between both parents. That was worth any price. Dad, Ethan said quietly. Daniel's eyes opened. Yeah, I'm glad you're awake. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever complications, I just wanted you to know that. Daniel reached across Sarah's bed and squeezed Ethan's shoulder. I'm glad I got to meet you too. And Ethan? Whatever comes, we face it together. That's what families do. Outside, the city began transitioning toward dawn. In hours, DNA results would arrive. The board meeting would convene. The Harrison family's future would be decided. But for now, in this quiet room, lit only by monitors and street lamps, Ethan sat between his parents and felt something he'd never quite felt before. Complete. His mother would wake up. His father would heal. They would be a family. They had to be. The family's coming together. But Victoria's got one more card to play. Will Sarah wake up in time? Drop your predictions and subscribe. Dawn broke with the arrival of DNA results. Dr. Martinez handed the sealed envelope to Harrison in the hallway, her expression carefully neutral. The lab confirmed proper collection and processing. These results are legally admissible. Harrison's hands shook as he held the envelope. Daniel had wheeled himself to the doorway, Ethan standing beside him. They all knew what it would say, but official confirmation carried weight belief alone couldn't match. Open it, Daniel said quietly. Harrison tore it open, scanned the document, then looked up with tears in his eyes. 99.97% probability of paternal relationship. Ethan is definitively Daniel's biological son. The words transformed everything. Official, documented, undeniable. Ethan Cooper was Ethan Harrison, heir to a legacy he'd never asked for. The board meeting starts in an hour, Harrison said, checking his watch. I need to prepare. Ethan, you should come with me. No. Daniel's voice was firm. Ethan stays here. With his mother. With me. Whatever the board decides doesn't change what matters. This family, together. Daniel, they could take everything. The company, the trust funds, our ability to pay for Sarah's care. Then let them take it. Daniel met his father's eyes. I never wanted your empire. I wanted freedom, love, a life beyond stock prices. You taught me that the hard way. So go to your meeting, but don't drag Ethan into it. Harrison looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Daniel's expression stopped him. All right, I'll handle the board alone. He turned to Ethan. But know this, whatever happens today, you're family. The DNA proves it, and nothing Victoria or the board says can change that. After Harrison left, Daniel wheeled back to Sarah's bedside, exhaustion evident in every movement. Your grandfather means well, but he thinks money solves everything. Sometimes it just complicates things. Will you really be okay if he loses the company? Ethan asked. I'll be okay if Sarah wakes up. Everything else is noise. Daniel took Sarah's hand. Though losing access to the trust that pay for this care would be problematic. The words were barely out when Victoria appeared in the doorway. May I come in? Daniel's expression hardened. Who are you? Victoria Chun, VP of Harrison Industries. I work with your father. She looked at Ethan. I take it you got the DNA results? He's my son, Daniel said flatly. Which you already knew. I had my suspicions confirmed. Victoria stepped in, her gaze sweeping over the setup. Daniel in his wheelchair, Ethan at Sarah's bedside, monitors tracking 2 patients. This is quite the reunion. But we need to discuss what happens next. What happens next as you leave, Daniel said coldly. Family only. Actually, this room is paid for by Harrison Industries Medical Fund, which makes it my business. Victoria pulled out her tablet. The board is meeting in 40 minutes. They'll vote on Wesley's future as CEO. If he loses, the entire corporate structure changes, including the medical trust currently paying for both your care and Sarah Cooper's care. The threat was clear. Ethan felt his stomach drop. You'd cut off their medical care? You'd let them suffer because of corporate politics? I wouldn't. But the board might decide Harrison Industries' charitable medical fund should be restructured, limited to employees and immediate families. You, Daniel, would still qualify. But Sarah? Victoria shook her head. She has no legal connection to the Harrison family. Never married Daniel. Never had her relationship acknowledged. From a corporate perspective, she's a stranger. She's the mother of my son, Daniel growled. Is she? Because hospital records show Sarah Cooper listed unknown as the father on Ethan's birth certificate. Never pursued paternity, never sought support. One could argue she deliberately severed any connection. Victoria's smile was sharp, which, while understandable, complicates her legal standing now. Ethan's mind raced. What do you want? I want Ethan to sign the contract I offered last night. In exchange, I'll ensure Sarah's care continues regardless of what happens in the board meeting. I'll personally guarantee funding through a separate trust, protected from corporate restructuring. That's extortion, Daniel said. That's pragmatism. Wesley is going to lose today. The votes are locked in. But if Ethan signs away his inheritance claim, removes himself from succession complications, I can at least ensure his mother survives the fallout. Victoria looked at Ethan. You have 30 minutes to decide. Sign the contract, save your mother, or refuse on principle and watch her care disappear when the new board restructures everything. She left. Daniel immediately fumbled for his phone with weakened hands. We need to call my father, warn him. It won't help, Ethan said quietly. She's right. If Harrison loses control, everything changes. And Mom, he looked at Sarah's monitors, at expensive equipment keeping her alive. Mom can't survive on general ICU care. I won't let you sign away your inheritance for her, Daniel said fiercely. Sarah would never forgive me. What future? Ethan's voice cracked. A future fighting over money I never knew existed? Or a future where my mother is actually alive to be part of it? He pulled out his phone, Victoria's contract on screen. This isn't even a choice. I can't lose her. Not when I just found you. Daniel's face crumpled. There has to be another way. There isn't. Not in 30 minutes. Ethan looked at his father. Tell me I'm making the right choice. I can't, because there is no right choice. Just impossible ones. Daniel reached for Sarah's hand, his other finding Ethan's. But if you're going to do this, no, it doesn't change who you are. You're my son. You're a Harrison. No contract can erase that. Ethan's phone showed 28 minutes. In the boardroom across town, Harrison prepared to fight. In this hospital room, his grandson prepared to surrender. And Sarah slept on, unaware the cost of her care had become the price of her son's inheritance. I'm signing it, Ethan said, voice steady despite tears. For Mom. For us. For any chance of being a family. Daniel pulled him into a fierce hug, the first real embrace between father and son. Then we make it count. Whatever time we have, whatever resources remain, we make this family mean something beyond money. They held each other while the clock ticked down, both silently begging Sarah to wake up, to make this decision unnecessary. But Sarah's monitors continued their steady rhythm, offering no guidance. Just mechanical confirmation she was still fighting. Still here. Still worth any sacrifice. Ethan pulled out his phone, opened Victoria's contract, and positioned his finger over the signature line. 23 minutes remaining. His entire future balanced on this moment. Sign away his claim to billions, or risk losing his mother forever. His hand trembled as he began to sign. Then Sarah's monitor emitted a sharp, insistent beep. Daniel's head snapped up. What's that? Another beep. The heart rate display spiked. Not dangerously, but deliberately. Purposefully. Sarah's eyelids fluttered. Subtle, barely perceptible, but unmistakable movement. Her fingers twitched. She's waking up? Ethan breathed, abandoning the contract. Dad, she's waking up. He jabbed the call button. Within seconds, Dr. Martinez and nurses burst in, assessing vitals. The doctor's practice calm couldn't hide her surprise. Increased brain activity, Dr. Martinez announced. Spontaneous movement in extremities. She's emerging from the coma. She leaned over Sarah. Sarah, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. For an agonizing moment, nothing. Then Sarah's fingers closed weakly around the doctor's hand. Good. Very good. Dr. Martinez checked pupils with a pen light. Sarah, you've been in an accident. You're in the hospital, and you're safe. Can you open your eyes? Sarah's eyelids fluttered, fighting days of forced sleep. Slowly, painfully they opened. Her eyes were unfocused at first, scanning the ceiling, monitors, unfamiliar faces. Then they found Ethan. Ethan. Her voice was barely a whisper, rusty from disuse. I'm here, Mom. Ethan grabbed her hand, squeezing gently. I'm right here. Sarah's gaze shifted and froze when she saw Daniel in his wheelchair. Her eyes went wide, heart rate spiking. No, you're not. Sarah. Daniel's voice cracked with emotion. It's me. It's really me. You're dead. Sarah tried to sit up, panic flooding her features. You died. The accident. I saw you unconscious. They said you might not make it. She looked wildly around. Where am I? What's happening? Dr. Martinez pressed Sarah back gently. Sarah, you need to stay calm. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Your son can explain, but first I need to ensure you're medically stable. 3 days. Sarah's panic intensified. No, that's wrong. The accident was years ago. Ethan was. She looked at her son, really seeing him. You're so big. How are you so big? You were just a baby, and now. Her voice broke. How long? How long was I really out? Just 3 days, Mom. Ethan said quickly. I promise. You were in a car accident on Tuesday. It's Friday now. Sarah's breathing came in short gasps. Her eyes kept darting to Daniel, as if expecting him to disappear. But Daniel's been gone for 16 years. I left the hospital. I ran. She stopped, hand moving instinctively to her stomach. The baby. Where's the baby? Is right here, Ethan said, squeezing her hand. Mom, I'm the baby. I'm 16 now. You raised me. Remember? Sarah stared at him, struggling to reconcile conflicting memories. 16. You're 16. She looked at Daniel again. And you're awake? After all this time? I woke up yesterday, Daniel said softly, wheeling closer despite nurses' protests. Sarah, I've been in a coma for 16 years. I just woke up, and I found out about Ethan, about you, about everything I missed. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. This isn't real. I left you in that hospital bed. I was pregnant, terrified, and your father, she flinched. Wesley said those things, and you were so angry. And then the accident, I couldn't watch you die slowly, so I ran. Her voice dissolved into sobs. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I left you. You have nothing to apologize for, Daniel said fiercely. My father was cruel. I was reckless. None of what happened was your fault. Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. This is a lot for someone just emerging from a coma. Sarah should rest. No. Sarah's voice gained strength. No, I need to understand. Ethan, tell me everything. So Ethan told her, abbreviated, essential points. The accident 3 days ago. Selling lunchboxes. Meeting Harrison. Discovering Daniel. The DNA test. Victoria's threats. Sarah's expression cycled through shock, grief, and finally blazing anger. Wesley Harrison is paying for my care? Wesley, who called me a gold digger. She tried to sit up. Get me out of here. I don't want his charity. Mom, stop. Ethan pressed her back gently. I know you're angry, but right now, Harrison's paying for the care keeping you alive. And Dad just woke up after 16 years, and we're all here together for the first time, and his voice broke. And I need you both. Please don't run away again. The raw plea cut through Sarah's anger. She looked at her son, seeing the exhaustion, the strain, the desperate hope. Oh, baby, Sarah whispered, pulling Ethan into a weak hug. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. Sarah's awake. After everything, the family's finally conscious together. But Victoria's still out there, in the board meeting. What happens next? Subscribe and drop your thoughts below. Sarah's hand found Daniel's across the bed, their fingers intertwining after 16 years of separation. The touch was electric, familiar yet strange, like remembering a dream upon waking. I kept your photo, Sarah admitted softly. Just one. I hid it from Ethan, told myself I was protecting him. But really, I just couldn't let you go completely. I'm glad, Daniel said, because I'm not letting you go now. Not ever again. The moment was interrupted by Ethan's phone buzzing insistently. Victoria, demanding an answer about the contract. Sarah noticed Ethan's tension. What's wrong? He explained Victoria's ultimatum. Sign away his inheritance, or watch Sarah's care disappear when the board restructured. Sarah's expression hardened with each word. Absolutely not, Sarah said flatly. Ethan, you are not signing away your birthright because of me. But Mom, if they cut off your care, then we'll figure something out. We always have. Sarah squeezed his hand. Baby, I've been taking care of us for 16 years without Harrison money. We'll manage. Not with this level of medical care. Dr. Martinez interjected quietly. Without the Harrison Medical Fund, we have to transfer you back to General ICU. Your condition is stable now, but any complications could be fatal without this support. Sarah's face paled, but her jaw set with determination. Then we take that risk. I won't let my son sacrifice his future. It's not just about money, Ethan interrupted. It's about us, about being a family. If I sign this contract, Victoria guarantees your care. We get to stay together. Isn't that worth more than some inheritance I never knew existed? He's right, Daniel said quietly. Sarah, I spent 16 years as good as dead. I'm not losing you now over pride or principle. Before Sarah could respond, the door burst open. Harrison stood there, disheveled and breathing hard. Don't sign it, he panted. Ethan, don't sign Victoria's contract. The board meeting, Ethan started, is over. I lost. Harrison straightened, his expression grim but oddly liberated. Victoria is the new CEO of Harrison Industries. The board voted me out. But before they could restructure the medical fund, I did something they can't undo. He pulled out a document, handed it to Ethan. I liquidated my personal assets, my house, my art collection, investments separate from the company. Put it all into an irrevocable trust specifically for Daniel's care, Sarah's care, and Ethan's education and living expenses. Protected from corporate restructuring because it's not corporate money. It's mine. Ethan stared at the document, struggling to process. You gave up everything? I gave up things, Harrison corrected. Buildings, paintings, bank accounts. What I kept is what matters, my son finally awake. My grandson, who I never knew existed, and the chance to make amends. He looked at Sarah. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know I said unforgivable things, destroyed your happiness. But I'm asking, begging, for the chance to be better. To be the grandfather Ethan deserves. To be family, if you'll let me. Sarah studied Harrison for a long moment. This man who'd been the villain of her story for 16 years. Ethan held his breath. You really gave up everything? Sarah asked finally. Your company, your empire? Victoria can have the company. I built it from nothing once. If I need to, I can do it again. Harrison's voice softened. But I can't get back 16 years with Daniel. Can't undo the pain I caused you. All I can do is try to be better going forward. Sarah exchanged glances with Daniel, some silent communication passing between them. Then she nodded slowly. One chance. You get one chance to prove you've changed. But the moment you say or do anything that hurts Ethan, you'll throw me out on my ear, as you should. Harrison smiled, genuine relief flooding his features. Thank you, Sarah. You're more gracious than I have any right to expect. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Victoria, time's up. What's your answer? He typed back. Already have my answer. We're family. All of us. No contracts needed. Victoria's response came immediately. You're making a mistake. But I suppose you're entitled to your mistakes. Congratulations on the reunion. I'll have Harrison Industries' legal team draw up paperwork to terminate your family's corporate medical coverage by Monday. Ethan showed the message to Harrison, who just smiled. Let her. The trust is already active. We don't need Harrison Industries anymore. He looked around the room, at his son, at Sarah, at Ethan. We just need each other. Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. This is all very touching, but I have actual medical matters to discuss. Sarah, your scans show remarkable improvement. You're stable enough for discharge within the week, though you'll need outpatient therapy. And Daniel, your recovery is progressing faster than expected. With intensive physical therapy, you could be walking with assistance within 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks, Daniel said firmly. I want to walk to Thanksgiving dinner. That's the goal. Thanksgiving is in 6 weeks, Sarah said, smiling despite everything. You're really going to push yourself that hard? I've been lying down for 16 years, Daniel said. I'm ready to stand up for my family. The next week passed in a blur of activity. Sarah was discharged to the apartment Harrison had rented. Modest but comfortable, close to the hospital for Daniel's daily therapy. The trust Harrison established covered not just medical expenses, but living costs, allowing Sarah to focus on recovery rather than rushing back to work. Victoria, true to her word, terminated their corporate medical coverage. But she also did something unexpected. She contacted Harrison about establishing the Daniel Harrison Foundation for Consciousness Research, funded partially by Harrison Industries as a PR initiative and partially by private donations. When she visited the apartment to discuss details, she brought flowers for Sarah and actually apologized. I was wrong about you, Victoria admitted. About all of you. Watching your family come together. It reminded me that there are things worth more than corporate victories. So I'm sorry for the threats, the ultimatums, the attempts to break you apart. You were protecting your interests, Sarah said simply. I can't fault you for that. And you're making amends now, which is what matters. Still, Victoria said, I'd like to help if you'll let me. The foundation needs a director, someone who understands what coma patients and their families go through. Daniel, would you consider the position? Once you've recovered enough, of course. Daniel looked surprised. You want me to run the foundation? I want someone who lived it to run it. Who better to advocate for coma patients than someone who was one? Victoria pulled out a folder. It would be part-time, initially flexible hours to accommodate your therapy. But the work would be meaningful, funding research, supporting families, maybe preventing other people from losing 16 years. Daniel looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. I think you should do it. Turn the worst thing that happened to you into something that helps others. Okay, Daniel said. Once I can walk again, I'm in. Victoria smiled. Genuine, not the razor-sharp corporate expression Ethan had seen before. Deal. And Ethan? There's a paid internship at the foundation if you're interested. During summers, after school. Good experience if you're serious about medical school. I am serious, Ethan said. And yes, thank you. After Victoria left, the family sat together in the living room. Sarah on the couch, still weak but healing. Daniel in his wheelchair, practicing the arm exercises his therapist had prescribed. Harrison in the armchair, looking more relaxed than Ethan had ever seen him. And Ethan cross-legged on the floor, doing homework while listening to his parents discuss physical therapy schedules and doctor appointments. It was mundane, normal, exactly what Ethan had spent 16 years wishing for. You know, Sarah said quietly, a month ago, I was rushing home from my shift at the diner, exhausted and worried about bills. Never imagining that a drunk driver and a lunchbox would lead to... She gestured around the room. This. A month ago, I was sitting in a hospital room talking to someone who couldn't hear me, Harrison added. Convinced I'd die before Daniel ever woke up. Never imagining I had a grandson, or that Sarah had been alive all these years. A month ago, I was trapped in darkness, Daniel said softly, dreaming about a woman I thought I'd lost forever, never knowing I had a son growing up without me. And a month ago, Ethan finished, I was just a kid selling lunchboxes, wishing I had a complete family. He looked at each of them. Funny how fast everything can change. Not funny, Sarah corrected gently. Miraculous. Impossible things happening because a teenage boy offered his last meal to a lonely old man. Kindness, Harrison said. That's what started all this. One simple act of kindness, and it rippled outward to change everything. They fell into comfortable silence, the kind families share when words aren't necessary. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. But in this apartment, time felt suspended, a moment of peace hard-won through tragedy and stubbornness and love that refused to give up. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from a classmate asking about homework. He answered quickly, then looked up to find all three adults watching him with identical expressions of affection. What? He asked. Nothing, Sarah said, smiling. Just, you're amazing, baby. You know that? You held everything together when I couldn't. You found Daniel when no one else could. You built this family through sheer force of will. I didn't build it alone, Ethan protested. Harrison never gave up on Dad. Dad woke up. You survived. Victoria helped eventually. It was all of us. True, Daniel said. But you were the catalyst. The connection point that brought everyone together. That's worth acknowledging. Harrison stood, moving to the kitchen. Who want coffee? I'm making a pot. I'll help, Sarah said, starting to rise. You'll sit, Harrison said firmly but kindly. Doctor's orders. You need rest. I can manage coffee. As Harrison busied himself in the kitchen, Daniel wheeled over to Ethan. Can I tell you something? Of course. I spent 16 years in darkness. And in that darkness, there were dreams, fragments of consciousness, images that felt both real and impossible. And in every single one, there was a boy. I never saw his face clearly, never understood who he was. But he was always there, just out of reach, calling to me. Daniel's voice thickened with emotion. It was you, Ethan. All those years, some part of me knew you existed. Knew I had to find my way back to you. Ethan felt tears burning his eyes. You really think that's possible? That you sense me? I don't know what's possible anymore. I woke up from a 16-year coma because my son called me Dad. Your mother woke up at the exact moment you were about to sign away your future to save her. Harrison sacrificed his empire to protect all of us. Daniel smiled. After all that, I'm ready to believe in anything. From the kitchen, Harrison called out, Coffee's ready. And I found cookies in the pantry. Sarah, these are amazing. Your recipe? My grandmother's, Sarah called back. Ethan makes them too. He's better at it than I am. Then we're having a baking lesson soon, Harrison announced. I want to learn. You baking? Daniel laughed. The man who employed a full staff of chefs wants to learn to bake cookies. I employed them because I never learned, Harrison said, returning with a tray of mugs. But I have time now, and more importantly, I have family to learn with. As they settled into coffee and cookies and comfortable conversation about nothing important, Ethan felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of tension he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. This was what family felt like. Not perfect, not simple, but real. Chosen, built from broken pieces and impossible circumstances and a stubborn refusal to give up on each other. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news about your family. Just wanted to say congratulations. What you did, offering food to a stranger, that's what started everything. Never forget that small acts of kindness can change the world. Amanda Williams. Ethan showed the text to the others. Amanda Williams, remember her? The daughter of the drunk driver who hit Dad. The one working with the foundation, Harrison confirmed. She's been remarkable, channeling her guilt into advocacy for victims and rehabilitation programs for drunk drivers. Everyone gets a chance at redemption in this family, apparently, Sarah observed. Even people connected to our tragedies. Maybe that's the point, Daniel said thoughtfully. Maybe the whole reason this happened, all of it, the accident, the coma, the years apart, was so we'd learn that lesson. That forgiveness and second chances matter more than holding on to anger. Heavy philosophy for a Tuesday evening, Sarah teased, but her eyes were serious. Though you might be right. If I found you earlier, if Wesley had tracked me down before Ethan was born, who knows if it would have worked? We were so young, so hurt. Maybe we needed 16 years to become people capable of building something real. So you're saying the universe made me wait 16 years to meet my father so we'd all be emotionally mature enough to handle it? Ethan said skeptically. I'm saying sometimes the worst things that happen to us become the foundations for the best things, Sarah said. And that's terrifying and beautiful and impossible to understand. But it's true. They stayed up late that night, talking about everything and nothing, making plans for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the ordinary holidays they'd missed. When Ethan finally went to bed, he could hear his parents' voices drifting from the living room. Sarah and Daniel, reunited after 16 years, with 16 years' worth of conversation to catch up on. And in the guest room down the hall, Harrison slept in a home that actually felt like one, surrounded by the family he'd nearly destroyed and then fought to rebuild. It wasn't perfect. Sarah still had months of recovery. Daniel's physical therapy was grueling, progress measured in inches. Harrison was learning how to be part of family instead of ruling an empire. and Ethan was navigating the weird reality of having gone from a fatherless teen to someone with more family than he knew what to do with. But it was theirs. Messy, complicated, hard-won, and absolutely theirs. And that made it perfect enough. The family's healing. Harrison sacrificed everything. Victoria found her humanity, and they're all together. One more part to go. Drop a comment about what you want to see at Thanksgiving and subscribe for the finale. 6 weeks later, Thanksgiving morning arrived with golden light and the scent of Sarah's cooking filling the apartment. Ethan woke early to help, finding his mother already deep in preparations despite his protests. "Mom, you're supposed to be taking it easy." "I'm taking it easy," Sarah said, stirring a pot. "Taking it easy would be cooking for 50 people. I'm only cooking for 6. 6. Ethan counted mentally. "You, me, Dad. Harrison, who else?" Victoria called yesterday. Asked if she could come. Said she didn't have family plans. Sarah glanced at him. "I know it's complicated, but you said yes because you can't turn away anyone who needs family." Ethan finished, smiling. "Who's the 6th? "Amanda Williams. She's been working with Wesley on the foundation. Seems only right to include her." Ethan hugged his mother from behind. "You're amazing, you know that." "I'm practical. Holding grudges takes too much energy." From the living room came the sound of Daniel's walker scraping across hardwood. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, upright and mobile, his face flushed with effort but triumphant. Walked from the bedroom without stopping. "New record." "You're supposed to wait for the physical therapist before attempting that distance," Sarah scolded, but her pride was evident. "It's Thanksgiving. I'm walking to the table today, remember?" Daniel made his way to Sarah's side, kissing her cheek. "Need help with anything? Sit and supervise. You've been doing too much as it is." They've fallen into comfortable rhythms over the past weeks. Sarah managing the household while still recovering. Daniel pushing himself through grueling physical therapy. Harrison helping with everything from grocery shopping to learning how to actually cook. It wasn't the family Ethan had imagined as a child, but it was real and growing stronger daily. Harrison arrived at noon, carrying pies from an upscale bakery despite Sarah's insistence she'd make dessert. "Consider it my contribution. I'm still working up to actual cooking." "How's the apartment search going?" Sarah asked. "Found a place 2 blocks away. Small, manageable. Closes next week." Harrison set down the pies. "Though I admit, I've gotten used to being around family. The condo's going to feel empty." "Then you'll have to visit often," Sarah said warmly. "We've got a couch with your name on it for Sunday dinners." The doorbell rang. Ethan answered it to find Victoria, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, the most relaxed he'd ever seen her. She carried a bottle of wine and looked genuinely nervous. "I wasn't sure what to bring," she admitted. "This feels weird, having Thanksgiving with people I tried to destroy 6 weeks ago." "You're learning," Ethan said, stepping aside to let her in. "That's what matters." Amanda arrived minutes later, equally nervous but welcomed warmly by Sarah. Within an hour, the apartment was full of conversation and laughter and the organized chaos of a family meal coming together. Daniel stood at his place at the table, hands gripping his walker, determination written across his features. "Everyone ready?" "You don't have to prove anything," Sarah said softly. "I'm not proving anything. I'm walking to Thanksgiving dinner with my family." Daniel took one step away from the walker, then another, his rebuilt muscles trembling but holding. Everyone watched in silence as he covered the 10 feet from living room to his seat, finally releasing the walker and sinking into his chair with a gasp of triumph. "Made it!" The table erupted in applause. Sarah was crying, Harrison beaming with pride, and Ethan felt his own throat tighten watching his father achieve the goal he'd set 6 weeks ago when walking seemed impossible. They filled their plates, passing dishes in the comfortable chaos of family meals. For a while, conversation stayed light. Compliments to Sarah's cooking, Daniel's recovery progress, Ethan's school updates, Harrison's adjustment to life without corporate responsibilities. Then Amanda spoke up, her voice tentative. "Can I say something? I know I'm basically a stranger here, but..." She looked around the table at this unlikely collection of people bound by tragedy and redemption. 6 months ago, I was drowning in guilt over what my father did 16 years ago. I convinced myself I didn't deserve happiness or family because of his mistakes. And then you all. She gestured helplessly. You turned the worst thing that happened to you into forgiveness, into a foundation that's already helping people. You showed me that redemption is possible, that we don't have to stay trapped by the past. That's beautiful, Amanda, Sarah said gently. And you're not a stranger. You're part of this family story now, which makes you family. Everyone gets redemption in this family, Daniel added. Harrison proved that. He looked at his father. Dad, I've been thinking about what you said, about building your empire from nothing. The foundation needs funding beyond corporate donations and Victoria's PR budget. What if you started a new venture? Something smaller, more focused. And what if profits went towards supporting the foundation's work? Harrison's eyes widened. You want me to go back into business? After I just got out? Not the same business. Something that matters. Maybe medical equipment manufacturing, devices that help coma patients, monitoring systems, rehabilitation tools. Things that serve the foundation's mission while generating sustainable income. Daniel's voice grew stronger with conviction. You're brilliant at business, Dad. But this time, do it for the right reasons. Build something that helps people, not just shareholders. Harrison sat back, considering. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. Genuine excitement Ethan hadn't seen before. A medical equipment company focused on consciousness care. That's actually brilliant. I know people have contacts in the field. Could start small, maybe partner with existing manufacturers. His business mind was clearly engaging, but differently now, channeling that drive towards something meaningful. See, Sarah said, everyone finds their purpose eventually. Speaking of purpose, Victoria said, I have an announcement. The board approved a substantial 5-year commitment to the foundation. And Daniel, we'd like you to start as director in January, if you're ready. Part-time initially, but with potential to expand as you recover. And Ethan, Victoria continued, that summer internship I mentioned, it's yours if you want it. Paid position, working directly with coma patients and their families. Good experience for someone considering medical school. I want it, Ethan said immediately. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank your family for teaching me that some things matter more than corporate warfare. Victoria raised her glass. To impossible things. To families built from broken pieces. To second chances and stubborn hope that refuses to give up. To impossible things, Harrison echoed. To family, Sarah added. To second chances, Daniel said. They drank, and Ethan felt the full weight of what they'd built. 6 weeks ago, they'd been strangers connected only by tragedy. Now they were choosing to be family, not because blood demanded it or circumstances forced it, but because they wanted it. After dinner, Daniel insisted on demonstrating his progress by walking to the piano Harrison had brought from storage. His fingers were clumsy from disuse, but the music was recognizable. A simple melody Sarah apparently recognized because she started crying immediately. That's the song, she whispered. The one you were learning 16 years ago. The one you said you'd play at our wedding. Daniel's hands stilled on the keys. We never got married. Not officially, not with family there. Just a rushed courthouse ceremony before everything fell apart. He looked at Sarah, at Ethan, at the assembled family. Maybe it's time to fix that. The room went very quiet. Daniel Harrison, Sarah said carefully. Are you proposing to me at Thanksgiving dinner? I'm saying we deserve a real wedding. With our son there, with family, with all the people who fought to bring us back together. Daniel stood from the piano. Without his walker, Ethan noticed and crossed to Sarah. 16 years ago, I married you in a courthouse because I couldn't wait. Today, I'm asking you to marry me again. Properly this time, with everyone we love there to witness it. Sarah was laughing and crying simultaneously. You're proposing the same day you learned to walk to the table? You couldn't have paced these milestones. 16 years is long enough to wait. So what do you say? Will you marry me, Sarah Cooper? Again. Yes, Sarah said, pulling him down for a kiss. Yes, of course, yes. I married you once. I'll marry you 1,000 times if that's what it takes. The room erupted in celebration. Harrison crying openly, Victoria grinning, Amanda applauding, and Ethan feeling like his heart might burst from the impossible joy of watching his parents get engaged after 16 years of separation. "I want to help plan it," Harrison said eagerly. "Nothing too extravagant. I know you'd hate that, Sarah, but something meaningful. Maybe the hospital chapel, where you both fought your way back to consciousness." "That's perfect," Sarah agreed. "Small, intimate, just family." "And Ethan gives you away," Daniel added, "since he's the one who brought us all back together." "I'd be honored," Ethan said, his voice thick. They spent the rest of the evening making plans, tentatively scheduling the wedding for Christmas, discussing who would officiate, debating whether Victoria and Amanda counted as bridesmaids or just honored guests. It was chaotic and joyful, and exactly what Thanksgiving should be. As guests were leaving, Victoria pulled Ethan aside. 6 weeks ago I thought you were a con artist. I'm glad I was wrong." "You were just protecting your interests," Ethan said. "I get it now. Still, I almost destroyed this before it had a chance to exist. So I'm sorry, and I'm grateful you didn't give up." "That seems to be the family theme," Ethan observed. "Never giving up, even when everyone says you should." After everyone left, Ethan helped his parents clean up while Harrison washed dishes, a task he'd apparently never done in his 70 years but was determined to master. "Today was perfect," Sarah said, leaning against Daniel on the couch. "Everything I never knew I needed. 16 years late, but we got there," Daniel agreed. "Better late than never," Harrison called from the kitchen. "Though next time, let's try not to wait 16 years between milestones." "Deal," Daniel said, pulling Sarah closer. "No more 16-year gaps. From now on, we do everything together." Ethan watched his parents, reunited, engaged, healing, and his grandfather learning to wash dishes in the kitchen, and felt something settle in his chest. This was family. Not the perfect, simple version he'd dreamed of as a kid, but something better. Something real, built from tragedy and mistakes, and the stubborn refusal to give up on each other. His phone buzzed with a text from a classmate. "How was your Thanksgiving?" Ethan smiled as he typed back. "Impossible. Miraculous. Perfect." And for the first time in his 16 years, that description fit his life completely. Tomorrow, his father would continue physical therapy. His mother would keep recovering. His grandfather would start planning his new business venture. And Ethan would go back to school, to homework, to the ordinary rhythms of teenage life. Except now, he'd come home to a complete family. It wasn't the beginning he'd been given, but it was the future they'd chosen. And that made all the difference. They're engaged. After 16 years, Daniel and Sarah are getting married with their family, there to witness it. One more part for the perfect ending. What do you think the wedding will be like? Comment below and subscribe. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing the city. The hospital chapel transformed into something magical. White flowers adorned every surface. Candles flickered in the windows, and the small space felt saturated with the weight of second chances. Ethan adjusted his tie for the 100th time, standing in a side room with his mother. Sarah wore a simple cream dress, elegant without being extravagant, exactly her style. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked her reflection. "You look beautiful, Mom," Ethan said softly. "I look terrified," Sarah admitted, "which is ridiculous. I'm marrying the same man I married 16 years ago. Why am I so nervous?" "Because this time it counts," Ethan said. "This time, everyone you love is here to witness it. No running, no hiding, no secrets. Just family." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." Ethan offered his arm. "Ready?" "Almost." Sarah pulled out a small box from her purse. "I have something for you first. Your father and I discussed it, and we want you to have this." Inside was a simple gold band, worn, well-loved, clearly old. "What is it?" "Your father's wedding ring. From our courthouse ceremony 16 years ago. I kept it all these years, couldn't bring myself to throw it away, even when I thought he was gone forever." Sarah's voice caught. "He wants you to hold on to it. Says it represents hope, that even when everything seems lost, love finds a way back." Ethan closed his fingers around the ring, feeling its weight. 16 years of his mother's hidden hope, now passed to him. "I'll keep it safe." "I know you will." Now, Sarah took a deep breath. Let's go get me married. Again, properly this time. The chapel was intimate, just as they'd planned. Harrison sat in the front row, beaming with pride and barely suppressed emotion. Victoria and Amanda sat together, having apparently formed an unlikely friendship over their shared experience of finding redemption through this family. A handful of Daniel's old friends, the ones who'd stayed loyal through 16 years, filled the remaining seats. And Dr. Martinez was there too, the doctor who'd overseen both their recoveries and insisted she wouldn't miss this for anything. At the altar stood Daniel, leaning lightly on a cane but upright and steady. He'd worked tirelessly with his physical therapist to be able to stand through the entire ceremony without his walker. When he saw Sarah enter on Ethan's arm, his face transformed with such pure love that several guests started crying immediately. The hospital chaplain, who'd witnessed countless vigils in this very chapel, smiled warmly as Ethan walked his mother down the aisle. When they reached the altar, Ethan placed Sarah's hand in Daniel's, then stepped back to stand beside his grandfather. "Dearly beloved," the chaplain began, "we are gathered here today to witness something truly miraculous. Not just a marriage, but a reunion. Not just vows, but a testament to the power of hope, love, and the stubborn refusal to give up on the people we cherish." She paused, looking at Daniel and Sarah with genuine affection. "I've served as chaplain in this hospital for 20 years. I've witnessed countless moments of joy and sorrow within these walls. But I've never seen anything quite like your story. Daniel, 16 years ago you arrived at this hospital after a terrible accident. Sarah, you sat by his bedside for 2 weeks before grief drove you away. And neither of you knew that your love had already created a miracle, a son who would one day bring you back together." Ethan felt tears burning his eyes. Harrison squeezed his shoulder gently. "Today," the chaplain continued, "you're choosing each other again. Not because circumstances demand it, not because it's easy, but because love, real love, survives everything. Even 16 years of separation, even tragedy and loss, and all the reasons it shouldn't work. You're proving that second chances are real, that families can be rebuilt, that hope matters." She turned to Daniel. "Do you, Daniel Harrison, take Sarah Cooper to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, through consciousness and unconsciousness, that got a ripple of tearful laughter, for all the days you're blessed to share together?" "I do," Daniel said, his voice strong and certain. "I did 16 years ago, and I do now, and I will every day for the rest of my life." "And do you, Sarah Cooper, take Daniel Harrison to be your lawfully wedded husband? To love and cherish, through all the impossible circumstances life throws your way, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Sarah said firmly. "Then now, always." "The couple has prepared their own vows," the chaplain said, stepping back. Daniel took both of Sarah's hands in his. "Sarah, 16 years ago, I married you in a courthouse because I couldn't wait another day to call you my wife. I was impulsive, stubborn, convinced that love conquered everything. Then I lost 16 years because of my anger and recklessness. I lost watching our son grow up. I lost being there when you needed me most. I lost everything except the memory of loving you." His voice broke, but he continued. "But somehow, impossibly, I found my way back. And I learned that love doesn't just conquer everything. It survives everything. It survives comas and separation and years of thinking someone is lost forever. So today, I'm not just marrying you. I'm promising that for whatever time we have left, I'll never take a single day for granted. I'll never let anger drive me away. I'll never stop fighting to be the husband you deserve and the father Ethan never had." Sarah was crying openly now. "Daniel, when I left this hospital 16 years ago, I thought I'd lost you forever. I was pregnant, terrified, and convinced that the universe was punishing us for loving each other despite your father's objections. So I ran. I hid. I built a life for our son that had no connection to the pain that had destroyed us." She squeezed his hands tighter. "But I never stopped loving you. I kept your photo hidden like a secret too precious to share. I told myself I was protecting Ethan, but really, I was protecting my own heart, because admitting you were gone meant admitting that hope was pointless. And then, through some miracle I still don't understand, our son's kindness brought you back to me. Sarah took a shaky breath. So today I'm not just marrying you. I'm choosing hope. I'm choosing to believe that impossible things can happen, that love is worth fighting for, that second chances are real. I'm promising to never run again, to face whatever comes together, to build the family we should have had 16 years ago. The chaplain wiped her own eyes. By the power vested in me, and in the presence of all these witnesses, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, you may kiss your bride. Again, Daniel pulled Sarah close and kissed her, tender and passionate and full of 16 years of longing finally satisfied. The small chapel erupted in applause and cheers, and more than a few sobs. As they walked back down the aisle together, hands clasped tight, Ethan felt something in his chest release. This was real. This was happening. His parents were married, his family was whole, and the impossible thing he'd dreamed about his entire childhood had finally come true. The reception was held in the hospital cafeteria, not glamorous, but meaningful. The same cafeteria where Ethan had met Victoria that first night, where he'd made impossible choices and found the strength to keep fighting. The hospital staff had decorated it beautifully, and the food was catered from the diner where Sarah had worked for 16 years. Her former co-workers insisted on contributing to the celebration. Harrison stood to give a toast, his voice thick with emotion. I spent 40 years building an empire and nearly destroyed my family in the process. I was so focused on leaving a legacy that I forgot what legacy actually means. It's not about buildings or bank accounts or corporate success. It's about this. He gestured around the room at the assembled family. It's about love surviving against impossible odds. It's about second chances and forgiveness and stubborn hope. He looked at Daniel and Sarah. I can't undo the pain I caused you. I can't give back the 16 years my cruelty cost you. But I can promise to spend whatever time I have left being the father and grandfather you deserve. And I can thank you, both of you, for teaching an old fool that it's never too late to learn what actually matters. Harrison raised his glass. To Daniel and Sarah. To love that survives everything. To the family we nearly lost and miraculously found again. And to Ethan, the boy who brought us all back together with one simple act of kindness. To family, the room echoed. Victoria stood next. I'm not family by blood. 6 weeks ago, I tried to destroy this family because I saw them as obstacles to my corporate ambitions. But they taught me something crucial, that success without humanity is just emptiness in expensive clothing. So thank you, all of you, for showing me what actually matters. And congratulations to the happy couple. As toasts continued and dinner was served, Ethan found himself standing by the window, looking out at the hospital where so much of their story had unfolded. Amanda joined him, following his gaze. Thinking about how it all started? She asked. Thinking about how unlikely it all was, Ethan said. If I hadn't offered Harrison that lunchbox, if Dad hadn't woken up when I called him, if Mom hadn't woken up at that exact moment, any one of those things goes differently and none of this happens. But they didn't go differently, Amanda said gently. They went exactly the way they needed to. Maybe that's what miracles are, not divine intervention, but 1,000 small choices and coincidences aligning perfectly to create something impossible. Or maybe, Ethan said slowly, miracles are just what happens when people refuse to give up, when they keep fighting and hoping even when everyone says they should stop. That too, Amanda agreed. Your family is living proof that stubborn hope changes everything. Daniel appeared beside them, moving easily now despite his cane. Ethan, your mother and I have something for you. He led Ethan back to the main table where Sarah waited, both parents smiling mysteriously. Sarah pulled out an envelope. We know you're only 16, Sarah began, and you have college ahead of you, medical school if that's still what you want. But we wanted you to have this now, as a thank you for everything you've done for this family. Inside the envelope was a bank statement. Ethan's eyes widened at the number. This is a college fund, Daniel said. and medical school fund, and whatever you dream of fund. Harrison, your mother, and I pooled resources. We can't give you back the 16 years we missed, but we can make sure your future is secure. That you never have to sell lunchboxes out of desperation, never have to choose between dreams and survival. We're so proud of you, baby, Sarah added. Not just for bringing us together, but for the person you've become despite growing up without a father. You're kind, compassionate, strong. Everything we could have hoped for. Ethan hugged them both, overwhelmed. I don't need the money. I just needed you. Both of you. We know, Daniel said. But you have us now. And you have the money too, because that's what families do. They support each other's dreams. As evening deepened into night, the celebration continued. Daniel danced with Sarah despite his therapist's likely disapproval, both of them laughing like the young couple they'd been 16 years ago. Harrison taught Ethan the proper way to tie a bow tie, something he'd apparently been meaning to pass down for years. Victoria and Amanda discovered a shared love of terrible reality TV and made plans for weekly viewing parties. Around 10 o'clock, as the celebration was winding down, Ethan found himself back at the window with his father. Thank you, Daniel said quietly. For what? For not giving up. For offering food to a lonely old man. For believing in impossible things. Daniel looked at his son with fierce pride. For being exactly the person your mother and I would have hoped to raise, even though we weren't there to raise you. You're here now, Ethan said. That's what matters. I'm here now, Daniel agreed. And I'm not going anywhere. None of us are. We're family. Messy, complicated, 16 years late, but family. They stood together watching the city lights. Father and son finally occupying the same moment, building memories to replace all the ones they'd missed. Sarah joined them, slipping her hand into Daniel's. What my two favorite men thinking about? About how lucky we are, Ethan said. How impossible this all is. How grateful I am that the universe gave us this second chance. Third chance, technically, Sarah said. First chance was 16 years ago when Daniel and I fell in love. Second chance was when we both woke up. This is our third chance to actually be a family properly, with no more running or hiding or secrets. Then let's not waste it, Daniel said. Let's make every day count. Let's be the family we should have been all along. Harrison joined them at the window, completing the circle. Ready to go home? He asked. Big day tomorrow. Sarah starts her new job at the community center. Daniel has therapy, and Ethan has finals. Ready, Sarah said. Let's go home. Together. As they left the hospital, this building that had witnessed so much of their pain and healing, Ethan took one last look back. The chapel window still glowed with candlelight, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The ICU where his mother had fought for her life. The fourth floor where his father had slept for 16 years. This was where their impossible story had unfolded. Where a teenage boy selling lunchboxes had met a lonely billionaire. Where a father had woken from a 16-year coma at his son's voice. Where a mother had opened her eyes at the exact moment her son needed her most. Where a family had been torn apart by tragedy and rebuilt through stubborn, impossible hope. Come on, Sarah said, tugging Ethan's hand. We're going home. Home. The word had never sounded better. They walked out into the snowy Christmas night, Daniel and Sarah hand in hand, Harrison beside them, and Ethan completing their circle. A family built from broken pieces and impossible circumstances, choosing each other every day despite everything that made it difficult. Behind them, the hospital stood as witness to their miracle. Ahead of them, the future spread out full of possibility. Ordinary days made extraordinary by the simple fact that they'd be facing them together. And as they walked toward the car, Ethan thought about the lunchbox that had started everything. About kindness rippling outward in ways no one could predict. About how the smallest acts, sharing a meal, refusing to give up, believing in impossible things, could change everything. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Merry Christmas to the family that taught me what Christmas actually means. See you at Sunday dinner. Ethan smiled and pocketed his phone. Then he climbed into the car with his parents and grandfather, and they drove home through the snowy night, a complete family, finally, after 16 years of waiting. The story didn't end there, of course. Stories like there's never really end. Daniel continued healing, eventually walking without a cane and taking up painting again, creating portraits of his family, capturing light the way it changed everything it touched. Sarah thrived at her new job helping at-risk families, using her own story to give others hope. Harrison's new medical equipment company became surprisingly successful, funding the foundation and employing people who understood that business could serve something beyond profit. And Ethan grew up surrounded by family, eventually going to medical school and specializing in treating coma patients, carrying forward the legacy of hope his family had built. But tonight, on this Christmas evening, all that mattered was this. They were together. They were home. They were family. And that made everything, all the pain, all the years lost, all the impossible struggles, worth it. Because in the end, love really did survive everything. It just took 16 years, one lunchbox, and the stubborn refusal to give up on the people who mattered most. And there you have it, from a teenage boy selling lunchboxes to a family reunited and whole. From tragedy to healing. From separation to love rediscovered. What a journey! If this story moved you, if it reminded you that impossible things can happen and that kindness matters more than we realize, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs hope today, because sometimes we all need to remember that even when everything seems lost, love finds a way back. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for believing in Ethan, Daniel, Sarah, and even Harrison's redemption. Thank you for understanding that families come in all shapes, including ones built from broken pieces and 16 years of separation. Where are you watching from? What part of the story touched you most? Drop a comment below. I love hearing your thoughts. Until the next story, remember, never give up on the people you love. Offer kindness to strangers. Believe in second chances. And know that sometimes the most impossible things are exactly what we need. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and may your own impossible miracles find their way to you. See you in the next one. Red Heart.